we said is going to kind of recap field layout management and account contact opportunity, and we'll go over related records in that area. We'll go on into the process, which is really involves our opportunity management, and then campaigns on into emails. And so if we pull up the end of the Part 1 slide deck, we just have a few slides there for account contact and opportunity management. It reviews the built-in fields in each area, so this is kind of handy when determining, what fields you might need to add. You can also see this same kind of information from the field management area, okay, if you just sort on the type of field. So if I go over into Salesnet now and I look at field management, I can very easily sort by field type, and that also pushes all of the built-in fields to the top of the list, okay? But we do have the slide here that kind of summarizes them all in one page for you, okay? And so just to recap, I'll spend a couple of minutes here on some of the main points from what we learned about built-in fields, is that you can have an unlimited number of layouts and also fields inside of Salesnet. We can add built-in fields and custom fields to our layouts, and then you can share those layouts out by the PTU, okay, PTU being Position Team User. So always keep in mind kind of our two main points was from here on out when we're adding things in Salesnet, we always need to be sure that they've been shared via the PTU permissions and that they're made active. The other thing that you'll want to remember about built-in fields is you can take them off the layouts, but you won't be able to delete them out of your database, right? They'll always show up in your field management area. But there are only a few that are actually required, per each object. And so that other slide that we showed with the list of fields, that also provides some of that information for you as well. Okay, and then again, we just show a couple of little screenshots for usage. You're always going to see something like a layout usage button, a field usage button, grant access. Okay, those are all used interchangeably to get you to the screen where you can actually allow someone to use the object that you're working on. Okay, and so now that brings us to the new topic inside of account contact opportunities. Okay, so this is a feature or a function that's available just in those areas, okay, is the ability to build what we call record relationships. Okay, this is actually building relationships between the same types of records. Okay, so we had a screenshot early on in our presentation, okay, that showed the concept of our data being linked together, right? So if we look at how we build account contacts and opportunities in Salesnet, we can see, and I'm just going to pull this over so that we can look at it, we can see that different types of records are linked to one another. An account is kind of that high-level corporate company record. It has multiple contacts beneath it, and then each contact can be linked to multiple opportunities. So we create this relationship of data, where we can do reporting and freely drill in and out of records. Well, when we look at related records or record relationships, okay, we're building relationships between accounts. So multiple accounts can be joined together, multiple opportunities joined together. Okay, so we can then create maybe families of accounts. A classic one is a corporate parent with subsidiary children. Okay, so if we have Johnson & Johnson as the overall, or Procter & Gamble as the overall parent, then maybe we have all these divisions of Johnson & Johnson and things beneath it, as the parent, as the child. Okay, so that's one example of the relationship you would build. And that's kind of a hierarchy. And so what we're describing here is the three different types of relationships. So as an administrator, you set up the relationship type. So if you want your users to create these parent, subsidiary, families in the account area, well, you would set them up a relationship type. So they could say, okay, I'm going to build this corporate family. So they would pick that type, and then they would put the accounts into it. Okay, so what we're going to look at is how you create a relationship type, and then we'll go in as a user so that you can see how the user would actually use it. Okay, so we have 3 types. There's regular, okay, which is kind of a one-to-one. So this is a, this guy's my referrer, and here's the referee. They're kind of one-to-one. We have a tree, where we might list a hierarchy, like here's the parent account, the children account, and each one of those children could have children. Okay, and then we can have a list. So maybe we're storing our competitors, in our company list, and we want to just create a solid, list that we can go look at any time, from a competitor view. Okay, this screenshot shows you what it looks like from the user's standpoint. Okay, so where we're at here is on an account record called ABC Builder. Okay, and you'll notice a related recs tab, okay, when you drill into an account record. And when I go there, I can see the relationships that have been created. And there's actually 2 being used or leveraged here. The corporate structure, okay, it's a company division relationship. So the record at the top is the company record or the parent record, and the ones below it are the divisional records. Then we show an example of what a list looks like to a user. So they just created a list of, maybe these are all the members of a given association, maybe, okay, the Builders Association. And so we can quickly see all the members in that list. And what I can do is I can freely pop in and out of those account records. Okay. So this is what the user will be creating, in the account records. And I'm going to go into a little more detail. So what can we do with those relationships? Okay, so we'll look at that after we look at how we set these up. So let me go into Salesnet, and let's collapse our menus here so it's very clear. Underneath the account, contact, opportunity, nodes, or folders, you'll see relationship types. Okay, so this is another one of those things where if you're going to build an account relationship type, you go into that data area, record type area, and click on the link here. And I'm in our admin little training demo account. So if you guys log into that environment, then you'll be able to see, all these relationship types as well. And we've built one of each. Okay, we've built the regular, the list, the tree, etc. So let's open up this one that we're calling corporate structure just by editing. Okay, and I have a pop-up here. And so basically you can name it, okay, so that it makes sense to the user. And then you get to name, the levels here. So it's the parent company and then the division, okay. So you get to name, the roles in the hierarchy. And then there are some settings, to limit the number of records that could be in a given role. You can make it unlimited. How many levels would you want it to nest? We can say, here we're saying 20. That's quite a few. And then you'll notice we have our status here. So relationship types are one of those things that has a status, and once you build it, it's active, and anyone who has access to a given account record would have access to build related records. Okay. So let's go look at what a list setup looks like. Kind of similar in that we give it a label name, but we're just building a list. So there's not, 2 roles. There's not a parent role and a child role. It's just being a member of a list. And like we said, maybe we call this, the Builders Association, right? I'm going to rename it, and being a association member. Okay, if you're in that list, then we're tagging you as being an association member, and we're saying we can put unlimited records. Okay, so the edit windows here don't look much different than the add window, and this is a typical layout here of where the add button might be. Whenever you click into a given area, you're frequently going to see that the add button is on the top left. Okay, so that's a pretty standard format or interface for Salesnet. So I'm going to click the add button. Okay, and I get to pick at this point the type, and based on what I pick here, you're going to see my screen changes. Okay, I get to put in the label. As soon as I pick my type, then I fill in my role information, and if I want to set limitations, I can. Very simple, and make it active. Okay. In the contacts area, we created a couple of things. You can see we did an org chart implementation. So this is a tree. So, you know, not that you're going to build that out for every client, but for a large customer, it might be nice to build that org chart so that when I go look at a contact record, I can quickly see manager, employee, different divisions, maybe even. So that can be handy to look at. And then, you know, we created a few relationship types and opportunity. And this is more like maybe you want to bundle together certain opportunities because it represents a single contract or a campaign effort or some way that you want to be able to look at a list of opportunities together. Okay. So the easiest one to really, I think, imagine or look at is the account. And I'm going to filter. And what you'll notice is a nice thing with our slides is that many of the images came from the training environment as we've kind of built it over time. And so I should be able to go into ABC Builder here and go look at the related records. Okay, so we had that corporate structure concept built in. And what you'll notice is ABC Builder is actually a child of ABC Company. But from here, I can see the whole family, and I can click into any record, okay, that I might want to view more detail. Then we can see the Builders Association. So this makes a lot of sense now. It's the Builders Associations, and here are all the members. Okay, and we can see, you know, who is involved there. So, besides seeing this visually, what does this information buy us? Okay, there are a couple of buttons that you'll notice when you're looking across tabs when you drill into a record that are all the way to the right, and it says View Related Contacts. What that means is, instead of just looking at a list of contacts for ABC Builder, I can pop up a very simple screen that shows me all of the contacts related to every account that ABC Builder is in a relation, you know, is related to. So I can see Builder 123, I can see Wade, I see Sam underneath this company. I can see there are two here under ABC Company. So you're able to then, you know, group together, you know, just the related records, you know, from each one of these. So if I wanted to go and see all of the related documents, so maybe we're attaching contracts, and I don't have a lot of data loaded here, but if we were attaching contracts into our account records, I could come here and see a listing of all the attached contracts, and I could click on them and open them. Okay, so seeing data via these view related buttons, okay, is all based on building a relationship here. Okay. The other thing that you'll notice is when you right click, okay, you have a couple of options at the bottom. One, we can add a related record from here. So this is also available via the direct access. And then the view related, okay, the buttons for each one of those sub-tabs is also available off of this menu. So if I want to say, show me all the related opportunities to companies that are linked to ABC Builder, I can go here and do that. And I can see one here under Co. and go on down the page. And I'm seeing open and finished. Okay, so the rest of our session today goes through process and opportunity management, then into campaigns and emails. So our first slides here just introduce us to the concept of the process. So yes, Salesnet can be created to be a framework to support your not just sales process but business process. And we often see companies use it not only as a sales process implementation, but maybe something to support project implementation or account management, where you're basically just calling and checking in with folks, or service desk items. A customer calls in and you start a service desk ticket, so to speak, and it has its own set of stages that are walked through, and it can be assigned to other people. Okay, so when we talk about process, we can build a process really to support almost anything and reflect the stages or the states that we would like to see something worked through. Okay, when users create opportunities that are based on a process, from their point of view, what they're getting is an automatic prompting of, well, you're in this stage, here are the activities that you could have performed. You can record that and then push out and say when you're going to perform your next activity. Okay, and by picking certain activities in the process, they may be moving forward, into certain stages or states. Okay, so I always like to say, kind of at a management level, maybe, or a reporting level, we're looking at the process to tell us, where we are cumulatively. So how many dollars do we have in the qualified state? How many service desk tickets are still open? How many projects are on backlog? Okay, so by building the stages correctly in our process, we can report those kind of things. And then from a user standpoint, again, it's more of an activity thing. We're trying to make it easy for them maybe to make notes, add activity, take things to the next step. We're also maybe trying to provide a framework and a guidance, around those. So what does it take to build a process? The very first thing that we like to work with customers on is think about your process outside of Salesnet. Okay, and that's almost true for any system, right? We want to think about the real world and ideally what we would like to reflect without putting the boundaries of software or systems on them, and just kind of put those into a bulleted list, even Word or Excel. Then we want to take that and say, okay, are these the stages or the steps that we want to be able to report on? Are these the stages or the steps that we want to be able to walk things through? And then we start to build those in Salesnet. First, we make a pass at creating steps, and then we make a pass at layering in activities. Okay, and then the following steps we have here, we have some other options around what we call smart forms. So every time someone chooses an activity, okay, they can be presented with a smart form, okay, which is a way for them to easily enter data that they may need to be focused on when going from one step to another, or it's a we want to actually make a requirement. Before you can move from the proposal stage to the contract stage, you have to fill in the PO number. Okay, we can make that kind of requirement by adding a smart form into the mix. Okay, so when we talk about building the process in Salesnet, there's a to support opportunity management. Okay, obviously we have an opportunity is going to have fields and it's going to have layouts. Well, opportunities also needs process. And then within that process, we can leverage smart forms. So there's more components, okay, to the opportunity area, okay, than there are in the rest of the system. Okay, so here's an image, and so I'm going to go through the slides first. Here's an image of a standard process, And this is how it appears in Salesnet. Okay, the process, first of all, is made up of those steps or stages that we talked about. So maybe we want to see how many opportunities we have in the engage stage. Okay, how many dollars do we think are in the close stage for the month of June? All right, that's where we get the ability to report on that. Then within each step or in each stage, the user has a number of activities that they can record. And so in this case, the user could say, I made a phone call, could put their notes in. And then what you're seeing here is each one of these activities then has a purpose for the future. And if you look at these symbols, this one says a little circle. If they record a phone call, it's just going to keep them in the qualify step. So we want the activity recorded, but it wasn't an activity that would make that opportunity be reflected as being in another stage. It's not until they actually, in this setup, actually say, okay, this is definitely qualified, move me on to the engage stage. They can pick that activity and put their notes in about why it's qualified. And then after recording that, the opportunity is automatically in the engage stage. Okay, so it's almost like the users are picking their own way. You give them a list of options, and they choose one, and they either go down path 1 or path 2. And so it's always like the books that you used to read as a child, Choose Your Way or Choose Your Own Adventure. You know, you always reached a page where it was like, okay, if you want to go in the cave, go to page 10, or if you want to climb up the mountain, go to page 15. And depending on what you wanted to do, you know, you could create a different story for yourself. And so that is somewhat, you know, what the process and the activities here mean to the user. Okay, and then we have some options that allow the user to record a loss or a finish. You know, it's not qualified. Maybe we can lose something in the engage stage because there's no budget. The customer just kind of goes away, or the client. And then finally, you can give them options that will record a win. So the outcome is a win, and that can go, you know, be recorded as, you know, successful results, and we can start to look at those over time. How many dollars have we lost this year? How many dollars have we won? Okay, that kind of reporting is all driven off just the natural activity selection that the user is going to perform. Okay, so let's take a quick pause here and go into Salesnet. Okay, and let's go look at an opportunity process in the process builder. Okay, so what we're talking about now happens in the opportunity menu and process builder, and we have something set up called sales process. Okay, and it's going to look a lot like what we see in our presentation. Okay, when I edit it, you can see I have steps, I have activities within each. Okay, what I want to show you is when we look at, remember what these activities are. It's like first call, send email, not qualified. Okay, so what this means to the user is that when they're in opportunities, okay, oh, let me take this. Okay, and they need to record, you know, a note, you know, like they're in the qualify stage, and so for members first, I want to record an activity. Okay, so once they have the opportunity set up, 90% of what they're going to do with that opportunity is record activity against it. So they're going to choose record activity, and the first thing they're going to do is pick their activity. You recognize these values, right? These are the activities from that step in the process. Okay, and we even have it set up so that the users can look at the process. So from here, I can launch up a window that shows me, you know, if I pick these two options, it just leaves me here. If I pick this second option, it takes me to step 2. All right, and so you're basically building okay, these activity options for your user as you create or develop out each step. Okay, and so they say qualified, go to engage. Oops, sorry, I made my window pop behind again. When I picked qualified, go to engage, I immediately got a new portion of the window where I could, at the top, I'm saying what I did. In the middle, I'm saying when I'm going to take action, and maybe who the next step owner is going to be. So I'm recording some future things. And then down here, we can present them with a smart form. We don't have to. Okay, in this case, this looks very much like kind of realtor type questions, listing agreement, flood insurance. And I can say complete, incomplete. You can see these are required. But if I had picked a different option, like I just want to record that I made my first call, okay, you can see that my future step here is still going to be qualified. It's suggesting my next follow-up date. And I have a totally different set, a different smart form down at the bottom, okay, with very little required information. We're just making it maybe easy for the user to fill in some information as they're recording activity. And then finally, I could record that this was not qualified. And when I do that, I can even give them a list of reasons to pick from. Okay? So this is what this means from the user's standpoint. You're basically giving them, the ability to record their activity, okay, and to push things, describe what they're going to do in the future. I'm going to do this on this date. So they set up their next activities. Okay? So let's go back to our process slide. And this takes us immediately into the steps for adding or building the process and how we get started. Okay, all the process management is performed from Process Builder. The nice thing about Process as well is if in your account, everyone has a handful of processes already. If you want to work on a new process, you can copy from an existing one, okay, to get a starting point, and then obviously we can add, a process. So we want to give the process a name, and we want to make a few other settings here, and so I'm going to try to describe, exactly what these kind of buy you. Allow users to put in multi-notes. Okay, so let's talk about what that means. If we look at the process, what we're trying to do typically with our process is direct folks to put in their activity via record activity. So here I'm going to say, talked to Joe, very happy, but needs to coordinate, internally, something along those lines. Then I can say, I'm going to follow back up with him next week on the 18th. If I think I have a dollar amount, I can put that in, and I can say what my next step notes are. So I can say follow up with Joe on executive meeting for budget. Okay, so that's my reminder of what I want to do in the future. So I'm saying what I did, I'm scheduling out my next step date, and then I'm giving myself a note on what to do in the future. And then I'm going to click Save. And so I'm working on the members first. So let me just, I'm going to filter out. I've been kind of bad in my training environment. I have a lot of things overdue. So let's say greater than or equal to. I want to get rid of some of those so we can see. So members first. Okay, I updated that, and I have my little next step note reminder that I'm showing on my list page. And when I click on that opportunity, what I'm able to do is go to the Steps tab now, and I can see the history that's building up. Okay, so this is my note today, and I couldn't have another timestamp note and who said it, and etc. So I want to build this history of notation here so that I can go back and read it, or anyone can go back and read it. We can also enable another tab called multi-notes, where a user could put in timestamp notes, but it shows up on a separate tab. We give you the ability to turn that off in opportunities because initially when you're training users and getting them started, it can be a little distracting to have too many options, and there are definitely a lot of options in Salesnet. So if you want to focus your users into recording activity and putting things into the step area, then turning off multi-notes is maybe a good idea so that there's no confusion on recording timestamp notes versus our chronological process notes. Okay. So that's what that checkbox means. You can also choose to show them the process. So you saw where as a user I could click on the Show Process link. That's what this checkbox is tied to. Then we can specify a value for the opportunity. Okay, so inherently opportunities in Salesnet are geared towards tracking sales. So sales typically has a dollar amount. So in Salesnet though, you could support Salesnet across multiple divisions, okay, and each division could sell different products and track different dollar amounts. So if we set up a process for our service division, maybe we would have a field for entering the service dollars. If that were the case, we would want to pick service value or service dollar value as the value that's a part of this process. What that means for you as an administrator and as someone who's in charge of maybe reporting and dashboarding is that when you go to build dashboards and you want to filter down on the service process, it is inherently going to reflect the service dollar because you bound them together. Okay, out of the box, Salesnet comes with one value field. Okay, and that value field is tied to every process in your account. But as you customize or configure, you can start to create custom fields for tracking dollar amount, and you can specify what value goes with what process. Now, you can only pick one. If you set up a series of custom fields that you then want to sum together, to make a total dollar value, you probably have to just go with the total dollar value. Like we can't bind each one of those values inherently to the process. So you want to pick one main one to bind to the process. Okay. Then we have business day shifting, and what that means is another thing for the user. So when they're recording activity, they are prompted or they're suggested a next activity date. Well, we are able to configure, is it 7 days out, 10 days out? But if something's going to land on a Saturday or Sunday, typically we don't want that to occur. So we will maybe say, Saturday dates push to Monday, Sunday dates push to Monday. Maybe your organization is closed on Fridays for some reason. So if anything we're going to be assigned on a Friday, maybe you want to push it backwards to a Thursday. Okay, so that way you can avoid, typically what we're trying to do is avoid having dates due for people on the weekend. Okay, so that's our first piece. This is our high-level information about the process. And then we're immediately into a scenario where we're adding steps. Okay, so let's go in and start a process. So I'm in the process builder, and I'll go ahead and start a new one. And why don't we do, we'll do one for a bid process. Okay, so bid response. And I'm going to let users see the process, but I'm not going to enable multi-notes. And then you can see here we have lots of dollar value fields, right? And so I could pick any kind of amount here. So I think I'll go with the projected total, okay, for my dollar amount here. You know what, why don't I do this? That's going to sum up different fields. So I'll just go with the built-in value. And what you'll see is BIF signifies the built-in field versus all of our custom ones. So I'll just go with the built-in field. And if something's going to be assigned on a Saturday, I'm going to push it back to a Friday. And if it's going to be assigned on a Sunday, I'll push it forward to a Monday. Okay? So I just filled in the header information. And you can fill in some description here, but that description is not seen anywhere except in the management area. Okay. Now, what you'll see here is I have my process started, I have no steps created, and my status is under construction. Okay, you will not be able to make the process active until you have at least one step in place and until there is at least one activity that finishes the process, either wins it or loses it, you know, in a finished fashion. And so what I want to point out is you'll notice we have buttons across the top. Okay, this looks a lot like, you know, editing or working with a layout. You know, we have buttons on the left for usage and testing the layout. We have buttons on the right for adding field boxes and toggling on the grid, those kind of things. So our main, you know, navigation or functions here are listed as buttons across the top. So the next thing you want to do once you start your process shell is to add a step. Okay, we need to get our first step in place. So let's go over quickly to our slide. Okay, and this window describes all the pieces that we can fill in for a step. Okay, step has a step name. Okay, that's first easy piece there. Then we have two drop downs called type and purpose. Okay, type and purpose, okay, gives you a way to categorize, you know, what this step means. And we have something in Salesnet called activity reporting. And activity reporting, when we talk about it from a reporting standpoint, is the ability to provide reporting across what a user does in the system, not just from a recording activity and an opportunity, but maybe appointments and tasks, multi-notes, sending emails. Okay, from a reporting standpoint, Salesnet treats all those things as activity. Okay, so you have an area in the system where you can create these type and purpose buckets so that then you could do roll-up reporting from that standpoint. I don't want to go into it too much now because the reporting doesn't come till next session. But I do just want to point out that these are basically ways to tag or categorize the step that you're creating. You don't have to use it, okay? And it does, I would say this is pretty advanced reporting or an advanced concept, you know, for reporting and analyzing your data. But so we have those there. We'll look at them in a second. You can give a description for your step, okay? And then we have probability. Okay, so Salesnet has built-in probability, and probability is tied to the step that you're in. Okay, so imagine you have your sales process, and the first step is qualify. Well, you know, assigning probability is typically a very subjective thing, and that's probably based on people's attitude and personality. Am I pessimistic or optimistic? So some folks in qualify might go, you know, 0 chance, nothing. And someone in qualify just engaging with a client might go, man, that's like 80% likely to go. Well, as you know, from a reporting standpoint, that can be very difficult to find value in someone who would say 0 and someone who would say 80. So maybe in the qualify step, we want to give some boundaries. And we could say, you can pick anything from 0 to 10. Okay, so a very optimistic person might pick 10, but from a business standpoint, we go, you know what, if something's in qualify, we really don't want to say more than 10 because we don't have enough information to know. Now, when you create your engage step, maybe you open that up and you say they can pick anything from 10 to 50. Okay, now we've given a smaller range, kind of hopefully given some objectivity to a very subjective setting. Okay. Then what you can do, if you want to make it maybe more simple and keep things streamlined, you might even say, okay, the range for qualify is 0 to 0. The range for engage is 50 to 50, and that means that whenever anybody enters an engage, it's always 50. So I do see where some people lock it down because they want some probability numbers to work with, but they really just want to base them on the step in the process. Okay, so that's another option. Okay, so I think I beat that horse to death there. So let's go add a few steps to our bid process. All right, so first of all, if I think about bid, so a bid goes out in the market. So maybe we receive a request for bid. Okay, so that might be our first step. So, and maybe it's maybe we'll call it RFP, a request for proposal, request for bid. Okay, and here you'll see our type and purpose drop downs, and it's really hard to imagine. Some of the types and purposes listed here, I'm certain don't apply, so I'm not going to assign anything at this time. We received the request for bid, and I'm just going to say, anybody in this stage could pick anything from 0 to 10%, and I'm going to click Save. Okay, so now we have our first step configured, and I just want to think maybe 2 more steps. So we're going to make this kind of a broad stroke process here. So we receive the request for bid. Next step, maybe when we receive it, maybe we do a couple of qualification things, but then we immediately need to go into creating our response. So maybe we're in process. Right? Pretty broad, but we know that at this point we're pulling together our team members, or we're doing more investigation, and we're developing the bid that we're going to produce. Okay, and during that time, maybe we find out things that really make it more. We think that it's more promising for us. There's some things about it, so that's why we would give the range of 10 to 50. And then finally, maybe we're in the submit step. Okay, so at this point we know it's submitted, and maybe we would open it up 50 to 70%. So once we go into the submit phase, maybe we've gotten some feedback from other people. We think it's even more promising, so we might open up our probability more. And then finally, from the submit step, maybe the only other step I want to track at this point is, we'll say, the award step. So this is where we found out that we have it, and maybe in the award step, this is when we're signing paperwork, generating contracts. Our billing is maybe generating invoicing. But from a reporting standpoint, I just want to keep track of these high-level steps. So how many dollars have we just maybe identified, have received requests for? How many dollars are we working on? How many bids are we trying to get submitted? How many have we put out there now? How many do we have in the submit stage? And then how long has it been there? We haven't heard. The date has passed. Having things sitting in stages also allows us to look at how long things were there. And then for the award, at this point, like I said, we know how much we've been awarded, and we know that all of our other departmental tasks are going on. Like we said, legal is working, billing is working, maybe we're scheduling is working for us. So that's our steps. Okay, that was our high level, put it in place, And now I know what my forecasting, my reporting is going to be based on. Okay? Then we go for our activities. Okay? So this is where we want to consider, what is it we want the users to be able to record? Okay? We want to there's two ways to think about this. We want to make it easy for them to record their activity, for one. The system needs to be easy to use. But maybe there are also activities that we want them to select because those are important to our tracking. Okay, we want to know every time somebody makes an on-site visit. Okay, so we would want users to be able to pick that specific activity because then we can turn around and report on that. How many on-site visits did we do this month? Okay, how many webinars did we host this month? Okay, so those are activities, maybe very specific ones we would want them to fill in. Okay, and then each activity we have to decide if that activity is performed, is that something that moves us to the next step or not? Or does it move us to a step down the chain? Or do we want to, are we going to give them the ability to win or lose, a opportunity with this step? And then we can pick, if it's something that's going to keep the opportunity open, well, if they pick that activity, when do we want to suggest that they do the next thing? So if they send an email, maybe we want them to do something in 3 days because we want them to follow up quickly so the person doesn't forget about us. And so we can suggest that date here, but we can let them override it by checking this box. Okay, we can always leave that box unchecked and we give them a date and that's the date. Okay, that's more restrictive. And then we can decide who the next step owner can be. So can the next step owner, can they assign another person? Does it always need to be them or the person that owns the opportunity? We typically try to make things starting out more open. So we suggest a date, but we let them override it. We let them assign the next step owner if they want to. We give them options that will let them move freely to other steps in the process. Okay, so we try to make it easy, but then if the business demands, something restrictive because you need to enforce a certain process, then we have those controls there that would allow us to do that. Okay, so let's go add in some activities into our process we're working on. So here, let's add an activity for, just a phone call. And that'll keep us in this step. And if they make a phone call, I want them to follow up potentially in 7 days. That's a good suggestion. Okay. But the main thing, one of the main things about the process is you do have to, the process, when you build it out, every step has to be reachable. Okay, and there has to be at least one option or one activity that finishes the process. So now I need an activity that, info gathered, go to in process. And what you'll see here is we typically, if it's something that moves them to another step, we like to tell them where it goes because it's just another validation on, if I pick this, this is what's going to happen for me. So in this first step, I've made an activity that keeps me here, and now I've put an activity in that moves me to the next step. And so we need to be able to move through every step. But we'll build out the first one a little more fully. But what about what if it was a small RFP request? Maybe we get a lot of small ones, and we're able to turn those around in the same day. So this was a quick response submitted. So this gives the user the ability to quickly record their activity, and we don't make them have to walk through each step. We gave them a quick jump, quick response, submitted, takes them to step 3, they're in the submit stage now. Okay? And then finally, we could put an option here that says, you know, no fit, you know, lost. This is going to be a lost and close. Okay, so we're not going to pursue this request for bid any longer, and we're going to lose it, and then we'll let them pick. So now we have a whole section about them recording the reasons it was lost. Okay, and maybe you know, there's a handful built in here, but maybe we don't have the equipment to support the request. Okay, so all these options, these one loss reason codes, they're managed here just underneath the process builder, one loss reason codes. Okay, so you can see we're bundling together a number of things here to create this process environment. Okay, so I'm going to save that, and so I've just very quickly, you know, added activity, and I've created ways to move through a couple of steps here. Okay, and I just need to finish out now. But let's look at, so again, I hope if you recognize the layout here, you know, as I added my steps, I received little links in here for me to manage the things within this step. These links are used to manage the activities within this step. Again, it looks a little bit like a detail layout. When I add my field box, I can name my field box, and I can add fields to it and do the tab order. You know, here I added my step box. I can rename it, adjust the probability, add activities. Okay, so as you're adding pieces in, you get a few more options here for management. Okay, so let me finish this out real quick. I'm just going to say, you know, let's see, bid complete, you know, go to submit. And so this option would let them walk through here. And again, we could have lots of activities for them to pick through. I'm just trying to fill in the navigation that lets us, you know, complete the process. So now I need something from submit that says, takes us to awarded. So I can say, you know, awarded, let's see what we say, 1, you know, RFP, go to award. Okay? And, you know, maybe we need to be sure we've got all our paperwork done in 7 days. And so here in the award stage, I might say, you know, paperwork complete. And here I might say win and close. So I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to win it, and then I could pick from a whole other set of reasons for why, you know, for why we won. And maybe it was our price, right? Maybe we wanted them to pick between price and cover, you know, different things. So we could give them a subset, or we could let them pick from all. So I'm going to save that. So now we technically can now activate this process. Okay, we have filled it out far enough so that every step is reachable, and there's at least one option for finishing it, and we actually have 2. So now I can go up here to my status, and I can change and activate. Okay, so I have an active process now. All right, so let me, so we've done steps and we've done activities. All right, and so let's go back to our slide deck here. And this is going to give us just a few little tips and notes, okay, on putting in activities. And, you know, I mean, you can refer to them however you want to, but what we're really trying to say is, you know, the options for activities, it's not like you have to go straight through each step. You know, you can give recording options that keep you in the same step, okay, calling those neutral. We can give you options that are positive, okay, that allow you to move forward. And typically when we build our stages or steps, you know, moving forward means you're advancing, right, in the real world. You're making more progress with an opportunity. And then we have negative. And negative means maybe I need to go backwards. Maybe I submitted the proposal, they redid their budget, and maybe I need to go all the way back to the qualify stage. Okay, so that's maybe a negative. You go backwards, or you finish it, you close it. Okay, those would be you're all done. Okay. Now, this brings us to the smart form component. Okay, so what are smart forms? Well, we think of them as mini like little layouts. Okay, so they're small layouts. They're dedicated to the opportunity area, to the process. Okay, and we can tie a layout, a smart form layout, to an activity. Okay, and this is where we can either provide the user with fields that makes it easy for them, or we can provide them with some required fields that allow us to validate, movement through the process, or that we're doing what we need to do in the real world, to advance things along. Okay, these smart form layouts can have built-in fields and custom fields. Okay, and they can pull fields from not only the opportunity area, but also the account and contact area. So this really becomes a very powerful section where you can not only ask someone to fill in the PO number for an opportunity, but you could also ask them to fill in, the new client's account number, and that could be a field that you store in your account record. Okay. So let's look at smart forms. This next screen just shows you how to build a smart form. And you'll notice again, it's in our menu in the opportunity section, a couple steps above Process Builder. Okay, so this is all done here. Okay, so go to the Smart Form Layout Editor. It lists all the ones that are in the system, and you can add them, or you can copy from one. And again, it's kind of the same concept. You give it a name, and it has a status, and then we need to put some fields on it. Okay, so the next screen shows adding fields to your smart form. And the big difference here is I'm not just adding fields from the opportunity area. I can pick from fields from any one of these three records, because remember, if we've put our data in correctly, then our accounts are linked to contacts, and contacts are linked to opportunities, and we could ask the user to fill in any amount of information that we want, okay, in the smart form. And then finally, once we've built our smart forms, how do you bind it to, or how do you tie it to a particular activity? You'll see here, when we go and look at our steps in our list of activities, all the way to the right, we have a link underneath the smart form column. And we either need to add it new, because there's not one there yet, or we need to change the smart form. Okay, so maybe we had one in place, but we want to swap it out. Okay, and when you click on that, you get a picker of all your available smart forms. Okay, so let's go and look at the process that we're working on. Okay, and I built this brand new, and so you can see no smart forms have been linked to these activities yet. All right, so let's do a couple of different things. I'm going to link, a different smart form to each one of these activities, and then I'm not going to link one to this third one, so that when we actually go to use this, you'll see the difference. Okay, so if I go look at my smart forms today, in my little crazy account here, I have all kinds of smart forms. Okay, if we go look at this one that we call proposal, okay, you can see it has 4 fields on it, 1 from account, well actually 2 from account and 2 from opportunity, and 3 of them are required. Okay, this is a field box, so I could add a second field box if I wanted to. Within the field box, I can add more fields, and I can pick from account, contact, and opportunity. So at the contact point, I could fill in I could ask them to verify the primary contact's first name and last name. So you can see I'm going to prompt the user for information that can be assigned and utilized through all 3 different kinds of records here. So I'm going to use the proposal layout. Well, then let's look at our general layout. Okay, this is the one that we put in where we're not requiring data, but we're just giving them the chance to fill in the gaps, right? And then I've got a field box down here with nothing in it, so I think I will delete that. Okay, so smart forms need to be active. That's the only requirement here. Okay, there's no usage on a smart form. Idea being, if you have access to the process, then you are going to need access to all the pieces of it. And so a smart form is essentially a piece of the process. Okay, so let's go back to our process builder, and let's go edit our bid process, and let's assign some smart forms. So phone call, I think I'll just put my little general smart form on there. And so when I clicked add, you can see I get a little picker now, and I think I called it general result layout with contact info. So I'm giving the user the ability to fill in next steps and value, and then I want them to validate account and contact if they want to. So I'm going to save that. Immediately that refreshes, and I can see I have one assigned, and if I mouse over it, it tells me which one it is. Okay, and so now I'm going to add my proposal smart form to this piece. Okay, and click Save. All right, so we've added a couple of smart forms so that when we start to use this, you'll see a difference there. Okay, so we've pretty much filled out and completed what's needed from a step activity kind of workflow standpoint. Okay, we're done essentially with the process builder. All right, and building in activity for one loss also involves pulling in our one loss reason codes. Okay, so we've kind of bundled all that up with the building of the process. Now we need to tie the process to a detail layout. Okay, every record in the system has a detail layout. So if I open up an account record, it has a layout that you look at the detail. Opportunities have detail layouts. Okay, that is the layout that shows up when you open up the opportunity and the detail tab. This is your detail layout. Okay, and you can have more than one. Okay, and if you had more than one, you would have a drop down here. But we need to make sure that we have the detail layout associated to our process so the user can enter data. Okay, the smart form is really more of a enter data at the right time or fill in these things if it's convenient for you. Okay, you're not typically going to reflect all your data fields in a smart form. So we still need a detail layout so that when a user opens the opportunity record, they can fill in the appropriate opportunity fields or view them as necessary. Okay, so I'm not going to build a new detail layout. Okay, let's just go pick one from our list that we want to use, and I'm probably just going to go with our best practice layout. Okay, it has value and finish date. It has all the things that were needed to make it active. So remember, our opportunity has more required fields than other records. It has to have a name. It has to have a finish date, a process, a start date, an owner, okay, and a first step due date, okay, if we're in that first step. So in order to make your opportunity detail layout active, we'll just mention, you have to have all those fields available on the form. Okay, they are required, system required, okay, and probability. So when you look at the red stars here, these red stars are required. I cannot make these unrequired, and all these fields have to exist. But we're going to use this as our detail layout for our bid process as well. All right, so when I go back to my process builder, what does that mean? Okay, that means we have to tie the two together. All right, and so that's what our next slide shows, is binding the opportunity layout. So back in our process builder, okay, we need to look to the buttons across the top of our process page. The first one is usage. We should all be familiar with that. So assign access to the process for PT, by PTU. And again, the scenario is my service division has a service process, and I only want them to be able to pick it. My inside sales group has an inside sales process, and I only want them to be able to pick that process. So that's why you might make your usage a little different if you were trying to satisfy different organizations. And then here's where we bind our layout. Okay, that just makes it easy. We pick the layout and we're done. Okay, so we are almost done. We're in the home stretch. So if I go to my bid process, okay, I come here and I want to set my usage. And of course for us, I'm just going to set it for everybody. So everybody has access to this process. And now I'm going to pick my layout. Okay, I can pick from anything, and I can add more than one if I want. Okay, maybe there's different views, detail views I want to use, but we'll go with one and we'll keep it simple. I am done. Okay, I've just built the process, tied it to the layout, and now we can go use it. Okay, so let's go to our account area. And let's say we just, ABC Builder, they're we work with them quite a bit, and they just contacted us with an RFP, for a school in South Georgia. And so I'm going to either right-click and add an opportunity from here, or I'm going to open up ABC Builder, and I'm going to look at the contact. Okay, that's my guy. If I needed to, I could add one. And I can go to opportunities and see if there was anything open. And I can add the opportunity from here as well. So why don't we go ahead and do that. And now I can pick my process. Okay, only active processes will show up here, and only the ones that you have access to will show up here. Once you pick your process, then you have to pick your layout. And if you had more than one, you would actually have a choice. And you pick your primary contact. If there was more than one listed here from that account record, you would pick them as well. Okay, so I'm going to click Next. And now I'm in my opportunity detail page. So this is ABC Builder, and I'm going to say this is RFP for school. I could fill in some pertinent information. Maybe it's $500,000. Finish date, again, I could fill out whatever I need to down the page. And I'm going to click Save. Okay, so now I have an opportunity in the Receive RFP step. Let's go look at it from our Opportunities list page. Okay, so ABC Builder RFP for school, steps due today. All right, I'm going to record activity. And now let's look. So remember, if we show the process, we have a couple of options. Phone call keeps us here, and it has our general result layout on it. Info gathered takes us to step 2, and it has our proposal info on it. And then we have quick response, and it shouldn't show any smart form. Okay, so let's go through those. Phone call. There's our general activity. I could fill in, I could say, oh, you know what, I do have their fax number. If I wanted to do that, then I could save. And it's going to leave me in this step. I could pick info gathered, and now I have to fill in some required data. Okay, and it's going to take me to the in process step. Or I could say quick response submitted, goes to submit step, and no smart form. Okay, so we've just created this environment to help the user record their information and guide them through the stages that we want them to go through and that we want to report on. Okay, so we'll pick the info gathered. We'll fill in our industry. We're going to pick government. And our next step is on the 16th. And I can pick anything. Remember my probability range, and I'm going to pick 50%. Okay, and my note could be finished, getting details, assigned quoting team, and I'm done. Save. Okay, so RFP for school is in process, and I can go look at my steps, and you can see my note in process. Okay, so our final slide for this section is just a little summary piece. So just kind of takes you through all the things that we talked about. So we added our steps, then we put in our activities, we thought about our smart forms. If we had a one lost activity, we looked at our reason codes. You can go manage those. Don't forget when we set it up, what value field do you want to use? Obviously, it has to be a currency value. And there's just a number of levels of customization. So do we want to prompt the user with the next date but let them override it, or do we want to lock it down? So who can use the process? Is it for every user in our company, or is it for just a specific few? And then we have to pull the process together with detailed layouts. Okay? Okay, so our next section covers campaign, and campaign is similar to the sections like lead, account, contact, opportunity, in that we can create fields and layouts. So we manage it somewhat in the same ways, but it's very different in how we utilize campaign records in the system. So campaigns actually give us a way to provide another grouping around leads, contacts, and opportunities. So think of a campaign as anything that you're doing to promote or communicate with a group of leads, a group of contacts. So we're talking about individuals there, or campaigns that we want to attribute maybe sales or opportunities towards. Like, we started 4 new projects because we attended the ABC trade show. Okay, then we might want to attribute dollars to that campaign, so we could go, wow, was it really worth going to that trade show? We spent $5,000, but we did get $50,000 in new project work. Okay, so campaigns is almost like another kind of bucket that we can configure in the system that we can throw leads and contacts into, which are people, individuals, or we can put opportunities to them so that we can maybe try to figure out what our ROI is on a campaign. And we talk about maybe it's emails, newsletters, phone campaigns, trade shows, maybe a list that you bought. You might consider that a campaign because you're going to have your inside sales team call through that list. Okay, so when we set up campaigns, we also set up campaign managers. So if you remember how we thought about queues from the standpoint of having queue administrators, okay, or queue members, we also can set up campaign administrators, okay, so that they can control certain aspects of the campaign. Okay, from the user perspective, okay, we have a campaign tab out to the right, and campaigns have a detail page, just like we discussed, similar to account contact. Okay, and at that point, when you set up a campaign, okay, so for instance, we've set up this lunch and learn event that we're going to promote. We can designate now who can use this campaign. Okay, because imagine maybe this is a lunch and learn for existing customers, and you want all of your account managers to be able to invite people to the lunch and learn. So that means that maybe they're going to need the ability to, if they invite someone and that person says, yes, I'm coming, they need the ability to attach that person's contact record into the campaign. Okay, so campaign usage is going to mean, who can see this campaign and who might be able to add contacts and leads to it and opportunities. Okay, and then we have, so when we talk about, so we're using campaigns for 2 things. We want to know about a person, like who are the people that we are trying to reach in the campaign. And a person in a campaign is going to have a status. Maybe we've invited them, but they've not responded. Okay, maybe they responded, but they were not interested. Maybe they responded and RSVP'd. Okay, so that's the statuses of that person, as a member of that campaign. But then when we talk about tying a campaign to an opportunity, there's no status. That's purely just a way to try to attribute, beneficial dollars that maybe came from that campaign. Okay, so member statuses only apply to the idea of tying a contact to a campaign or a lead to a campaign. Okay, from an administrator perspective, okay, we have a campaign menu in the setup area, just like the other record, data type areas here, and we can manage fields and layouts. And then we have a couple of very specific fields that we can manage in a campaign, and they have their own menu items. And so we're going to get into those in just a minute so that you can know what they mean or how they're utilized in the system. Okay, this screen is a little similar, if you remember, from the lead setup activities. There are some campaign setup activities. So it's like you have to get a few things configured, but then there are some ongoing activities that you might do or work on when it comes to a campaign. Okay, first of all, campaigns can be disabled just like leads. Okay, so we'll want to get that turned on. Then we want to be able to set up our built-in fields. These are our special fields, type and status, so we need to configure those. Our CDFs, we need to set access, okay, and then for a given campaign, like we said, we want to make sure we've got the right member statuses. Okay, so if it was an invitation, like we said, maybe they've not responded yet, they're interested, not interested, RSVP'd. Okay, you might have a totally different set of statuses for an email campaign. Okay, maybe the initial status is sent, okay, and then maybe statuses going forward is clicked, viewed, something along those lines. Okay, so you can maybe understand what the different statuses might mean. And then after we get our statuses and these types set up, then we can start adding multiple campaigns. And so I'll put in this fall lunch and learn. I'll put in a winter festival. I'll record a newsletter going out, in February, and all these different campaigns can have different people tied to them. Okay, so first of all, we need to enable it, and that is done in the same place where you enable the leads module. Okay, so we have a checkbox for campaigns. And then we are showing, our field management. Again, we're just kind of recapping, what you've already learned about field management, in that we have certain built-in fields. You can add custom fields. And then we have our two special fields, okay? What you'll see here in field management is that you can edit. They're basically pick lists, okay? But there is some logic tied to the values in this pick list. Okay, so for status and type, you can edit the pick list values straight from field management, or you can select campaign type and campaign status from the setup menu on the left. It's the exact same thing. It's two different ways to get to the same place. Okay, so let's talk about campaign type. Okay, we typically think of this as recording, what's the nature of the campaign, and you can see the examples here. So direct mail, trade show, maybe we do a special squeeze page, for an online campaign. Maybe we do something in Facebook. Anything we want to track, we can name that there. So we might call it, online, social media, trade show, etc. So a campaign type has to be active, okay? So we want the users, when maybe we have folks who can add campaigns or set them up, we want them to be able to pick the appropriate type, okay? And there's no limit to the types of campaigns you can set up, and the only thing you have to remember is to make it active, okay? So this is where one of our, be sure you set your status, okay? Get that set up correctly. Now, campaign status, what does that mean? Okay, so built-in, okay, or behind-the-scenes statuses, we need to know if the campaign is active and open. Okay, so obviously if we're going to use it, we need it to be active. But then, is it an open campaign? And what that means, if it's an open campaign, that means that the users can actually associate records to it. It's available when you pick it, when you're picking a list from a list of campaigns. Okay, so if we want to create statuses that signify something being open and I guess something being closed, right? So we might only run our fall Lunch and Learn campaign from now till September 1st. So from now until September 1st, we might want to pick a status of currently running or in progress. And then as of September 1st, we'll maybe set up a status for closed, okay, which means no more invites because the event's on the 10th and we have to do all the planning and et cetera. So when you set up a campaign, it's going to have a status tied to it, okay, and you're going to pick from statuses that signify either open or closed, and you can only tie people to a campaign if it's open, okay? And what they're saying here is, just like anything else, if we're going to create a campaign, we have to have, it has to have at least, one active status set up for it, or one open status, sorry. Managing campaign layouts, same thing. Detail layout editor, you can test it, copy it, you have to set your usage. You can put fields into field boxes, you can have multiple field boxes. And we have a number, again, of built-in fields available for you in the campaign area, but you could add your own, right? If you want to store information about the campaign, and maybe it's, what marketing firm did you use? What publications did you print this in? And maybe you have a pick list or just something you type into. Okay, so you can use it kind of as a just a storage point or a holding point for the campaign information. Now, member status. Okay, so we're going to just kind of walk on through and describe what member status means. And again, we talked about it. It's only applied to individuals. Okay, it doesn't apply to opportunities. And I think I can see where we need to make some slide corrections here. What we're trying to signify is on this campaign who has responded, what do we know about them, to know how effective the campaign was maybe from a communication standpoint. So they're looking at it that way and having a list to work down from a campaign standpoint. Okay. All right. So this takes us into a couple of screens just about adding new statuses and managing types. So we're going to walk through these, and then we'll actually go in and we'll look at campaigns. We'll associate campaigns to different people and look at it from a reporting standpoint and from a snapshot standpoint. So setting up a status, remember we just give it a name, and a member status, we're going to signify if it's a responded status or not. So we can set up custom statuses, so maybe they, interested, RSVP'd, requested more info. Those would all obviously be statuses where they've gotten back to us in some fashion. So we would want to tag them in the system as something that was considered a response. Because just keep in mind, we can then build, filtering and reports. Well, show me all the leads that have responded, to this campaign. I could build that report, okay, using responded, as a filter point. Okay, so we set up member statuses, and then we can say, which types of campaigns does this member status apply to. Obviously, clicked doesn't apply to a trade show campaign. Okay, so that's just kind of knowing, what you're setting up and customizing. So this is a screenshot for adding a campaign. We've given it a name. Now we're picking the campaign status. Okay, and here we're showing picking a status that is going to be in progress or open, right? Because we want to be able to use it and to assign people to it. We're selecting our campaign type, okay, which is going to define what member statuses we can choose from. Okay, and for this particular campaign, then we can say, for this particular campaign, I want to use these. All right, so on the left, I have all available member statuses, but for this campaign, I'm only going to flag people with this set of statuses. All right, and then campaign usage. So once we do this, we have to say, who can use it. All right, now we have a couple of screens here, and I only have 3 or 4 more slides on campaigns, and so I'm going to go through these, and then I'll go through a working sample. When you're looking at a campaign record, okay, you open it up, and you obviously had a detail tab. We have a few sub-tabs to the right. Now, the 3 to the right, appointments, tasks, multi-notes, and docs, again, this could be kind of a storage point for you to define, collateral that you used for the campaign, notes about conversations you had while you were working on the campaign, any appointments and tasks that you maybe set up. So we can, kind of treat this as a little working area for our campaign development. And then we have summary stats history. Okay, this is an area where we're focused on capturing that high-level performance information. Okay, and it's pulled from a couple of areas. One is pulled from the contacts and leads that we've associated to the campaign. Okay, so how many contacts were originally associated? How many have responded? How many leads associated? How many of those leads are still working? How many of them are converted? Okay, so we can start to see when we take a press the button stats as of now, we can get a little quick window into how is the campaign going. Okay, and so obviously contacts and leads is all based on the individuals and the members. Then we have opportunity. Okay, opportunity value is, well, how many opportunities total did we attribute, okay, to this campaign, and then how many have we won? Okay, so here a total of 6 are linked to this campaign, and we've won 3 of them. So I very quickly get to see, oh, okay, so we're making some progress, right? This campaign's going well for us. Now, we've talked a lot about, adding campaigns to contacts and associating and this and that. So how do we do it? Okay, so there's multiple ways to get records tied into a campaign. Okay, this screen shows you how a user might manually or one by one associate one of their contacts to a campaign. And so what we have open here is a contacts detail page or screen, and we've clicked on the campaign tab. So in the real world, and we're trying to depict that here, a person could have been part of many campaigns. Maybe they came to the Fall Lunch and Learn. Maybe they've gotten a quarterly newsletter from us for the last 4 quarters. Maybe they signed up for a webinar. And if we're tracking all those campaigns in Salesnet, we, in theory, could see all of them listed here along with their member statuses. Okay? So in this scenario, what we've done is maybe I've invited Andy to the Fall Lunch and Learn, and I need to record that. So I might click the Add button, and what this means here is not that I'm adding a campaign. I'm adding a campaign to this contact. And when I do that, I get to a little picker to pick the contact. I say what it is, and then I save or I click Add, and it puts it in there for me. Ongoing, I can come back in and update his status. So Andy maybe emails me or calls me back tomorrow, and I can come into this record, click on the status, and mark it as RSVP'd. Okay, so that's the manual way to do that. Leads works the same way. If you open up a lead detail page, you've got a campaign tab, and you can associate a lead to more than one campaign. Okay, and then this shows you the idea of editing the status for this person in this campaign. And I can mark him as responded with the date, and I can choose to put a note in if I want. Now, adding the campaign manually to an opportunity. Okay, this is different. Like we said, in order to get a roll-up of how many dollars we think we could attribute to a campaign, like we won this much revenue because of this particular campaign, the opportunity can only be associated to a single campaign, right? So there's no tab across the top. There's no concept of multiple campaigns tied to the same opportunity. Down at the bottom of your opportunity detail page, you're going to see a Choose Campaign link. Okay, when you do that, you can choose the campaign, add, and you're done. There's no date, there's no status, or anything like that. We're just making a simple linkage between this opportunity and that campaign. Okay, and keep in mind, if you've not enabled the campaign module inside of your account, you won't see any of these campaign links. You won't see any campaign tabs on the contact or lead pages. Okay, so we have to get that enabled first, okay, before we can utilize any campaign functionality. Okay, so now a couple of key things, our tips. Just keep in mind about your types and statuses. Those do kind of work together. We specify which member statuses go with a given campaign type, and campaign statuses can signify either an open campaign or a closed campaign, and that's important to how we can use it in the system. Okay, and then finally, we're going to hit some more of this over the coming days, but we want to mention that, even though I just showed you all the manual ways to tie records to campaigns, we don't necessarily want to rely on that, for every a situation, okay? Because our users maybe forget or don't have time to associate records to a campaign. So we do have some other options, okay? When we import a lead list, all right, we can set the campaign. So if I purchase a Dun & Bradstreet list for this, to work for this summer, maybe I start a Dun & Bradstreet, summer calling campaign. And when I import my leads, I can en masse assign all those leads to that campaign. The beauty of that is whatever campaign activity happens on those lead records, when I convert them over to account contact opportunities, they maintain that campaign linkage. Okay, I don't have to reassociate later, and I get that nice little show stats of now. I get a nice little snapshot almost automatically. Okay, so wherever possible, you want to try to get those lead records associated to the campaign, up front, so you don't have to worry about it later. Other options, when we create our external data captures, which we'll learn, in a later session, this is the ability for Salesnet to generate HTML forms that then you can go embed in other websites, either your website or a campaign page or somewhere where you're trying to advertise or get leads. When those leads come in through that external data capture, we can automatically assign them to the campaign. Okay, so if you're doing a special promotion online, or if you just want to track, the contact us entries from your website, they could all be tied to a campaign. Right? And then we have the ability to associate campaigns via the multi-record action and reports. So let's say for some reason you couldn't get things linked to a campaign up front. You could go in at a later time, you could run a contact report if you can get the filtering right, and you can associate contacts to a campaign en masse. Same thing with opportunities. If you could filter out and get the report to produce a list of opportunities, you could turn around and tie a campaign to it automatically. Okay. So now I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to go look in our demo account here. We have a number of campaigns set up, okay, and we've already configured our types and statuses and member statuses. So I'm not really going to spend any time here. Okay, what I want to go look at is the actual campaign records. Okay, and I want to look at, what do we have open? If we look here, fall lunch and learn, I think you recognize that. And if you look at the statuses, you can only imagine that these are probably all open campaigns. Okay, if I go look at fall lunch and learn, I can see my details, and I can see which statuses are part of the Lunch and Learn, for contacts and leads. If I edit this, I could change my statuses if I wanted to. I could work with it, from this standpoint. But I'm really concerned with looking at my summary stats history. And so at the time in April, we had a total of 60 leads tied to this campaign, 8 contacts, and we only had 6 responses. Okay, so let's look at stats as of now. Maybe, a lot hasn't changed here. So we can see the results. I'm in the same record. I had to, just kind of relaunch or regroup. But here's our stats as of now when I click that button. And what I can do is I can save this to history, and I can add another line on that list if I want to. And now I can see how many total opportunities, how many dollars, and et cetera. Okay, so this is my roll-up, my snapshot of things. All right, so let's go look at, reporting. Okay, how do we know who's tied to this guy? So first of all, if I want the real detail behind things, and again, I'm not going to get into too much, report building at this point, but if we just go look at my lead reports, okay, we're going to see fall lunch and learn not responded, okay, and then just fall lunch and learn across the board. So the idea behind this report, fall lunch and learn not responded, is it's filtering on the campaign, and the member status is one of not responded. Okay, so when I run this, now I have a list of leads that I could work through, broken out by the owner in the system. Okay, so let's add a couple. Okay, so let's say we use this report. Ideally I would have brought back phone number and email here. And I could have just worked down this list, trying to call or contact people to attend the Lunch and Learn. Let's say I get hold of John. So I'm going to open John's record, and I'm going to my campaign tab. And instead of him being not responded, I'm going to mark him as responded. RSVP'd. And this is just a, if I want, and save. So you can see he's got a new status. Okay. So I can add leads that way. So I'm looking at member statuses that way. Maybe then I could go into my contacts. So we do have to treat them somewhat separate. So I can have a Lunch and Learn contact report as well. So fall Lunch and Learn contacts. And this one is set just to give me back everybody that's been invited. Okay, there's no responded, not responded, but I could do the same. I could do the same thing, okay, with my contact records. Okay, so let me take one of these not responded and add them. Sorry, I'm just going to click one of my test records, the contact link, and I'll add them as being responded, or update their status anyway. And what you're seeing in the notes field there is when I initially set this up, I took my invitation list and via multi-record action, I tied them all to the Lunch and Learn. Okay, but initially they're all tied without having RSVP'd. Okay, and let's go ahead, let's look at our test 2 opportunity here. So what I'm doing, okay, so my test 2 contact actually has an opportunity underneath him. And so he's already tied to the Lunch and Learn, but I think what I'll do is I'll remove him. Maybe we inadvertently assigned that opportunity to the wrong campaign. Okay, because what I want to show you is, and so I could have an opportunity report as well that gave me access to the campaign opportunities. But now when I go back to my Lunch and Learn, we should see things change kind of across the board. Okay, so if I go to stats as of now, and I take them, okay, we have a few more contacts, and we have less opportunities. Remember, we were at 9. Okay, so let's save that to history. Okay, and now we can go back and we can view all here. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What we're seeing change is the responses. I didn't add any new contacts, but we actually have more responses now. Okay, and we have less opportunities tied. Okay, so the one thing that I feel like I do need to state very clearly is that there's no auto updating from like someone clicking on a link in an email to update these statuses. Okay, but you have a clear path to working a member list for a campaign, getting those stats updated, tying opportunities to them, and getting a concept of an ROI in the system. And even though there's not maybe automatic some kind of click response, we do have some ways to do things kind of in bulk with the import tool, with MRA, with the Excel add-in. Okay, that's also in there with the external data capture. Okay. Okay, so email functionality in Salesnet is contained in our Communicate tab. Okay, the Communicate tab is solely focused on the setup of email templates, the tracking of email events, so emails sent out of Salesnet, kind of as a mass, in concept, a mass communication. And then you also have some spots to enable a distribution list. There is no installation required for this component. Okay, everything is done in browser. Okay, so there's no plug-in or any extra software required for that. Emails sent out of or initiated, I guess, from Salesnet have two paths possible. One, they can go out the Salesnet email server or mail server, or two, you can set up your Salesnet configuration to, the term is relay through your company's mail server, okay, or through the your Google account mail server. So if you want them, to what I would consider be a little more authentic, okay, you can push them through your own mail server, okay, so that you have the logging and you have the tracking, on your side. This screenshot just shows us, where we can go and manage the email templates. And when we go into Communicate, this is one of our first areas where we're going to be looking at our tree folder on the left. I mean, I know you're used to seeing it in the setup area, but here in this tab, we organize things with the tree, folder node concept. So you have full ability to manage the nodes under email templates. You can drag and drop templates into different folders, and when you have clicked into one of these folders, you have the Add button. Okay, so you can either click the Add button and start your template from here, or you can right-click on the folder and add template from there. And then up top, you'll see two higher-level nodes, one called Event History. This is where you would see a listing of all the emails you've sent out, and then you'll see where you can store a distribution list. Okay. When you click Add Template or the Add button in Templates, you get an initial screen where you can put in the template name, and you can activate it. It has to be active or users can't see it. And you can set the templates so that the users can either edit the bodies of the template when they use it or not. It can just be locked down. Okay. The second screen, so it's just a two-part screen here. The second screen is where you build your template. Okay. We can copy from an existing template just by selecting the template in the drop-down and clicking the Copy From button. You give it a subject. You probably are wanting to build HTML emails and leave this encoding piece the same, unless you're doing a different language. And then in the body, we can fill in, whatever verbiage we need to. We can add images. Okay, we can format the text. We can put attachments on. Attachments, if you note here, have to be first in the document library. But then you can pick from attachments in the doc library. And then you have the ability to make these emails personalized. Okay, so this is the concept of being able to say, "Hi, Joe. Thank you for attending the webinar. We're so glad that ABC Company, could be a part of our program." And so Joe and ABC Company, okay, those could be values that you sub in. So I could send the email to 100 people, and it would sub in the appropriate first name and the appropriate company name for them. Okay, and if you'll see, you can pick what type of field you want, account contact opportunity. Then you pick the field that you want to use, and then you copy-paste this whole string into the right position. Okay, that's called a token. So when the system sees that in the email body, it knows that you wanted to substitute the contact's first name. This screenshot shows where you can go and set up your emails to go out your own server. So you either pick application email server or you pick external email server. Okay, when you pick external email server, you're going to need to know the settings for your email server. And if that's not something that you have, then you probably have to talk to your, if you have an IT person or the company that hosts your email and website, something along those lines. Okay, and then just kind of off to the side here, kind of out of order, we're showing, managing the folders in the tree structure by right-clicking on it. Okay, and we're going to give you just a few, what am I trying to say? A view into how users or how you kick off emails. Okay, this is kind of the same concept. Well, how do you tie a campaign to a contact? Well, you can do it manually. You can do it MRA. You could import it that way. It could have come in through an XVC. Okay, there are a number of different ways to initiate an email in Salesnet. First of all, you can go directly to the record, and you can choose to add a COM event. Okay, if you do that to an account, it will send emails to all the contacts tied to that account. If you do it with an opportunity, it will send an email to all the contacts on the opportunity with an email address. Okay, you kind of get the picture. Probably the most, if you're trying to do mass communication, the thing that you're going to be mostly using is the reporting interface. So you're going to build a report, let's say, for all your Georgia customers. So you're going to filter on the state of Georgia, and it's maybe going to produce 150 contacts. Okay, then you're going to initiate your email from that list. Okay, and you'll walk through the wizard and send your email that way. Okay, and so once you do that, here in your event history, you're going to see a listing of all the emails that went out. And from the contacts or the leads, the people that received the emails, you're going to get a listing of all the emails that they've received from Salesnet, okay, via the communicate function. So COM events under Reese Weathers shows me that she received an email on February 2012. Okay, and I could add a COM event from here. I could kick one off from the reporting area. And once it goes, I'll see a history of it here underneath her. Okay, so let's go look at quickly this interface in Salesnet. So here under Communicate, okay, I have my template folder on the left, and so I can drill into each one of these folders, or I can go to Search and I can see all my templates that are available to me. Okay, if you'll notice, these grids look just like the grids on the main list pages. I can filter, sort, group, change the number of records that I'm looking at. Okay, so I have a lot of flexibility here. Okay, so let's edit one of these emails. So we're calling let's look at the quote template. When I click on the name, I get to view what's in there, and you'll notice all these substitution fields that we've put in here. So first name, thank you to that person's company name. Here's the products you ordered. Here's the value of your order. Something about shipping. and then we're putting in, the contact owner's information, like we've made a footer, so to speak. If I want to go in and edit it, I just click Edit. This page is just informational, okay? It's just the description. This page is the actual editor, okay? So from here, I can do a number of things, okay? I could format the text. I could manage my attachments. I could put images in. Okay, so there's several different things I could do. If I wanted to say first name, last name, so contact first name, but now I want to grab the last name. See how I pick different fields, the token changes. So I simply grab that and paste it in. And make sure I have a space there. Okay, but that is how I personalize this to say first name, last name to the person who's going to get it. Right? So in the world of let me send an email out to all the contacts invited to the Fall Lunch and Learn. Okay, when I open up that report, it's filtered on Fall Lunch and Learn campaign. When I click Communicate, it launches me into the wizard to start the Communicate process. And what it's done is it has added all the Lunch and Learn contacts into my recipient list automatically. So I didn't have to go pick them. I just needed to get to the report that I needed, and all my recipients are preloaded. When I click Next, I'm going to get a little screen about formatting and culture that I leave the same. And then I get a page where it tells me, well, these guys didn't have email addresses, so obviously we can't use them. And then if there were duplicates, I would also get a message about these are duplicates, just pick one to send to. So I could it'll even take care of duplicate for me. And when I click Next, now I get to decide what email I'm sending them. So you can see here at the top, these are all the recipients. They're going to get individual emails. Okay, they won't know anybody else got an email. And I can decide to use my quote template. And I pick it and press Use Template, and it fills it in. Okay? Now, there's more than one person here, so it doesn't sub anything in, right? But if I click Next and go on through, now I get the ability to save the event with a name. And when I click Send and Save, all those emails would go out. Okay, it's very simple. The real work is in creating the template and creating the report. Once you do that, it's really just choosing to send an email and deciding which template you want to use. Okay, so I have a few more minutes here, so I want to show you a couple more screens related to the email functionality.